When I was just 15, something really crazy happened to me. I was supposed to be in charge at home for the weekend, which was fine with me. I live in a nice city in Georgia, still in the same house. I can't share all the details. My mom was away for the weekend, and my older cousin wasn't around either. I usually love Saturdays, especially when I can relax without any school stress. Having the whole place to myself? That's awesome. But after that night, I started to feel unsure about being alone at home. This story will stay in my mind for a very long time. It was almost midnight, and I was watching a funny animal show. I started feeling really tired. Before going to bed, I took my stuff and went outside to smoke with my friend. When I came back in, I felt relaxed until I saw that my back door was wide open. My heart started beating really fast, and I got really scared. I realized someone might have broken in. I couldn't believe I forgot to lock the door. I quickly grabbed a knife from the kitchen and quietly walked to my room, hoping I wouldn't run into the intruder. I looked for my house keys for a long time, but no one was around to help. I checked everywhere for about 30 minutes, but couldn't find them. I started to worry that I might be forgetting things. Did I leave the door open and forget about it? It sounded crazy, but I couldn't think of any other reason. I had to accept it and move on. I couldn't call my mom because my phone had run out of minutes. So, I decided to give up for the night. I slept with a knife next to me, locked the door, and hoped for the best. I stayed awake for a long time, my mind racing with thoughts. I couldn't sleep at all. Just lying in bed made me more awake. Eventually, I mustered the courage to get up and smoke. This time, I opened my bedroom window, blew smoke outside, and kept an eye out. While smoking, I heard a car nearby, which was weird because my neighbors were all old, and cars starting up late was unusual. I got suspicious, so I checked it out. I peeked out the window facing the driveway and saw a truck in my driveway with a guy inside. My heart raced as I squinted to see if he could see me. He quickly sped out of my driveway. I rushed to the front porch, ready to yell, but both my car and the truck were gone. As I walked through the living room, I noticed the TV was missing too. Our place got robbed, and they took our stuff. I prioritized safety, but I worried if they would come back, or if someone else might try to break in. That night gave me serious anxiety, and even now, 20 years later, it still bothers me. I was reading online about how to start a car without a key. Not an easy thing to do, but if you have the right tools and someone who knows how, it can be done quickly. Well, one day, our place got robbed. They took 2 TVs, my mom's safe with a lot of money, and other valuable things. But here's the surprising part. They didn't check my room. I wonder if they knew I was there, or if it was just luck. My mom thought it might be her ex-boyfriend, who was a bit crazy, but I never met him, so who knows? Time passed, and things changed. My mom moved away, and it's been 20 years since my parents passed away. But that night still bothers me. Recently, while cleaning the attic, I found some old newspaper clippings. It turns out, during that time, there were a lot of break-ins in our neighborhood. These thieves weren't just taking random things. They were experts at starting cars without keys. They stole electronics, money, and anything else they could find. But here's the thing. Those burglars weren't just regular thieves. They were actually part of a secret group that steals cars. The person I saw in my driveway wasn't just some random thief. He was a professional. They chose houses with specific types of cars, and mine happened to be one of them. The TVs and other stuff they took were just extra things they grabbed. It hit me really hard. These guys weren't beginners, and they had a plan. They didn't bother with my room because they knew someone was home. They weren't looking for a fight, they just wanted to take the car. That's why they disappeared so fast. Professionals don't hang around after a job. The newspaper articles showed that the police caught the group of thieves not long after I encountered them. The thieves were clever, but they made a mistake, and the law caught up with them. The crime spree ended, and everything in the neighborhood went back to normal. Learning the truth made me feel both relieved and a bit uneasy. I was happy the experienced thieves didn't bother me, but knowing they were professionals made the whole situation creepy. It was a surprising turn of events that I didn't expect, making the entire experience even more strange. Even now, I can't help but think about what might have happened if I hadn't found those newspaper clippings. Would I still be wondering about that night and why they didn't enter my room? The unexpected twist in the story added a new layer, turning it into more than just a random break-in. It gave me a glimpse into the world of organized crime, a world that briefly crossed paths with mine in an unsettling way. I'm 15 years old and live in a small house in the countryside. My neighbors are about half a mile away, and sometimes I talk to them. Most of the time, I keep to myself and only go to town when I have to. I'm kind of semi-retired, so I spend most of my time at home. But a few months each year, I do some contracting work. One late fall day, I was outside putting away all my tools and lawnmowers in the shed for the winter, just doing my usual chores. While I was busy with my yard work, I noticed something weird. There was a person walking along the road connected to my driveway. The strange thing was he didn't have anything with him. No backpack, no camping gear. Now the road was pretty empty, with just a few houses like mine, and the town was a good 4 hours away on foot. I stared at the man until he walked away and couldn't be seen anymore. When he was gone, I checked for cars, but there weren't any on the road. It was strange, but I didn't worry too much. I finished my yard work and went inside before it got dark. After making dinner, I sat down to eat. All of a sudden, I heard a loud noise like something hitting wood from outside. It seemed to come from where the shed is. I looked through the window and was surprised to see the shed door wide open. That had never happened before. Feeling a bit uneasy, I decided to go outside and see what was going on, at least to close the door. I took my rifle just to be safe, even though I didn't really think there was any danger. While going to the shed, I listened carefully, but it was really quiet at night. I looked around the field too, but didn't see any animals or people. When I got to the shed, I turned on my flashlight and looked inside. Everything seemed normal. I checked thoroughly, but didn't find any hidden animals. I closed the shed door tightly and started going back. While walking through the field to my house, I felt something strange growing inside me. I couldn't figure it out, but it kept getting stronger as I got to my front door. I went inside and locked the door. In the hallway, I saw a dirty shoe print on the floor. I turned on the light and saw a line of shoe prints leading to the spare bedroom. My heart was pounding fast as I stood with my rifle, slowly walking up to a door. I pressed my head against it and heard someone breathing on the other side. Suddenly, the door swung open, and I jumped back, holding my rifle up. A man appeared, looking like he was about to attack, holding a big metal shovel. I yelled at him to stay away, trying to sound tough, but I was really scared. He stayed back, looking angry, and I didn't know what to do. Calling the police would take too much time, and keeping him at gunpoint felt dangerous. In this weird quietness, the man suddenly threw a shovel at me and ran back into the room. I went in quickly and saw him crawling out of the window. Part of me wanted to stop him, but I couldn't find the courage. He jumped out and ran into the field, disappearing into the big, empty night. As I caught my breath, I saw something strange in the corner of the room. There was a small, old box on a shelf that I hadn't noticed before. I got curious and picked it up. It looked like a regular box, but when I opened it, I found some letters inside. The letters were written by someone named Thomas, and they talked about a hidden treasure buried near my house. My thoughts were running wild. I wondered if the man wanted the treasure, and if he knew something I didn't. So, I decided to investigate further. The letters I found hinted that there might be a secret hiding place in my shed connected to tunnels under the field. As I kept reading, it became clear that the man wasn't just a random person snooping around. I followed his path back to the shed and noticed a loose floorboard. After some effort, I managed to open it and found a narrow staircase leading down. The tunnel was dark, but as I cautiously moved forward, I discovered an underground room filled with old, dusty boxes. I found some boxes in my house, and each box had a year written on it. Inside, there were old newspapers, photos, and even some gold coins. It turns out, a man was trying to discover the hidden history of our area. He thought I knew his secret and was checking it out, which is why there were shoe prints leading to a spare bedroom. As I kept looking around, I discovered an even older part of the tunnel that led to a locked door. The key was hidden in one of the boxes, and when I opened the door, I found a big, really old cave. The walls had strange symbols, and in the middle was a chest with jewels and old things. The man who was searching for a hidden treasure thought I was a danger. He believed I knew about his discoveries and wanted to keep them safe. As I looked at the old things in the cave, I realized there was a rich history right under my normal home. A long time ago, there was a man who is not here anymore, and we don't know much about him. Maybe he had good reasons for hiding the treasure, or maybe he really loved history. Finding out there was a hidden history under my home was surprising. It changed a scary night into an exciting one of finding out new things. I decided to keep the secret room safe, with the treasure and old things to show how interesting our area's history is. I put the letters back in the box carefully. They are a reminder that sometimes things that seem scary can actually lead to a surprising adventure of learning and understanding. When I turned 15, my parents gave me an Xbox and a monitor for my birthday. It was awesome because I could play games in my room. I loved spending time upstairs, especially on weekends. One Saturday night, my parents were away for a work convention, so I had the house to myself. I was chatting with two friends from school in an Xbox party, playing a game. Suddenly, I heard a loud thumping noise coming from downstairs. Being alone at home, any strange sound can make your mind race. I quickly turned down the volume and took off one headphone. For a while, nothing happened. But then, the mysterious thumping noise came back. I told my friends about the strange stuff happening in my house. We thought it was just a joke, but during a break in our game, I went to check. As I was going downstairs, I heard soft whispers. I got scared when I saw 4 men in black moving around silently in the living room. I knew I had to go back upstairs quickly. When I was going back up, one of the stairs made a loud creaking noise. I was sure they heard it. I didn't waste time and ran to my room, put on my headset, and told my friends to call the police. They were confused and asked what was happening, but I didn't have time to explain. I just told them to call the police and left the headset on my desk. Even though I locked and closed my room door, I got scared and decided to hide in the bathroom down the hall. It was dark, and I left the bathroom door slightly open so no one would suspect. I heard loud footsteps on the stairs, and soon there was banging on my bedroom door with people telling me to open it. I was really scared, so I got up, opened the bathroom window, and just as the door opened, I jumped out head first. I landed on my neck in a weird way, but quickly looked back at the bathroom window. I saw a shadow there, not moving. Then, the backyard door opened, and 3 guys ran towards me. I tried to run away, but the 3 guys caught me and pulled me back to the house. Just when things seemed really bad, we heard police sirens in the distance. The guys got scared, looked at each other, and ran away over the backyard fence into the night. Soon, the police came to the backyard. I told them where the guys went, and some officers went after them. They caught one guy inside the house, but the other 3 got away. While I was talking to the police, my 2 friends from Xbox arrived on their bikes. I'm so grateful to them for calling the cops. It probably saved me. Something surprising happened when the police searched the house. Besides finding the people who weren't supposed to be there, they also discovered hidden stuff. In a secret place, they found 4 different knives and a couple of loaded pistols. This made the situation more serious than just a regular break-in. It seemed like those guys were not just normal burglars, they had dangerous weapons. As the police kept looking into it, they found a link between the caught intruder and a group of criminals doing illegal things. It turned out that the guys who got away were part of a bigger criminal gang, and the break-in was just one small part of a larger problem. The police worked really hard to stop some bad guys, and I accidentally ran into them. This helped the police find out about their illegal activities. Because of what happened, the police caught many important members of the group. It was a surprising event. A random break-in turned into a big moment that helped stop a dangerous criminal group. When I think about it, I realize that a simple birthday present, an Xbox, started everything. It was strange, and I never thought something like this would happen. But in the end, I'm thankful because it made our neighborhood safer. Back in high school, something wild happened to me. I was enjoying my summer at my parents' house. They have this cool basement that I practically consider mine when I'm back. One day, I come home after acing my finals, grab my college stuff, and head to my parents' place. They're out for the night and said they'd be back in a few hours. Nice. That means I have the whole house to myself. I use my own key to unlock the door, go inside, and start unpacking and organizing my things. Then, I go down to the basement. It's the ultimate chill spot with a huge TV. I'm just hanging out there, having a good time. Suddenly, I hear a sound in my bedroom. I've never been in there before, and the door is closed. I'm not scared, so I casually walk over, open the door, and hear a noise like my closet door closing. It's kind of hidden, and when I check, the door is shut tight. Now, I feel a bit weird. Only a person could close that door, right? And I'm home, alone. I think about checking it out, but decide not to. I leave the room not feeling uneasy anymore, and go upstairs to the living room. I chill there for about 30 minutes, watching TV and relaxing on the couch. Suddenly, I hear someone walking up the stairs. My parents aren't back yet, so it's not them. I look over, and there's this guy coming up the stairs. He looks older than me, with a beard and long hair, seeming like he's on some kind of wild trip. I stood up, took a step back, and asked the guy who he was. He didn't say anything, just kept walking towards me. I told him he had to leave, or I would call the police, but he didn't respond and kept getting closer. I ended up against a wall with nowhere to go, and he wasn't slowing down. I decided to run to the back corner of the house. The guy followed me and suddenly charged at me like he had rockets on his shoes. He was acting crazy. When he tried to grab me, I dodged, but he got hold of my leg, and we both fell to the floor. I quickly got up and ran to the staircase, then raced down. When I reached the bottom, I threw the door open and sprinted out of the house. The crazy guy followed me, but I ran down the street yelling at him to stay away. Eventually, he stopped chasing me and wandered off into someone else's yard. Once I caught my breath, I called 911 for help. When the police arrived, I didn't know where the person they were looking for was. I went back to my house and stood in the front yard. About 15 minutes later, they found the person hidden in someone else's backyard. It turns out a neighbor saw him and called the police. The police were already close to my house, so they picked him up. Now, here's the crazy part. The police started asking the person questions, and it turns out he wasn't just a random stranger. He was looking for his sister, who he claimed was living in my parents' house. I was confused because I don't have a sister, and my parents don't have any long-lost relatives living with them. But the guy was serious, saying he received a call from her, claiming she was at our address. Now I'm really confused. This guy seems really mixed up. The police are talking to him, trying to figure out what's happening. They ask me if I know anything, but honestly, I'm just as clueless as they are. Then, out of nowhere, a neighbor comes over and says they know the guy. Turns out, he used to live around here a few years ago and had a sister who passed away. He never got over it, and sometimes he'd wander around thinking his sister was still alive somewhere. Suddenly, it all makes sense. He probably saw me moving in, thought I was his sister, and somehow thought she was living in my parents' house. The basement, the closed bedroom door, all that. It was his way of trying to find his sister. The police took the man away, and it left me with mixed feelings. I felt relieved because he wasn't a dangerous stranger, but I also felt sad for him because he lost his sister and couldn't move on. I still don't know how he got into my parents' house or found their address. Maybe he overheard a conversation or saw something online. It's a surprising turn of events from what I thought was just a scary moment being home alone. So, that's the story. I was alone at home, a strange guy thinking I was his sister, and the police sorted it out. Life can surprise you, even when you're just relaxing in your parents' basement. One evening in November 2018, when I was 15, everything seemed normal. I was just relaxing in my room after a tiring day. My mom had gone to pick up my brother, and I was alone with my laptop, watching YouTube videos. Little did I know, something strange was about to happen. It was around 6 p.m., and it was already dark outside in our small town, Mapleville. I was really into my videos when my mom called from downstairs. She said she was getting my brother from work and stopping at the gas station quickly. Since I was 17 and used to being home alone at night, I decided to stay home and keep watching my video. About 10 minutes later, strange noises broke the quiet in my house. At first, I thought it was just my cat making a lot of noise, so I didn't pay much attention. But then, I heard banging on the back door and the sound of keys jingling. I figured it was my brother coming home early and having trouble with the door, so I didn't worry too much. The banging and keys didn't stop, though. I started feeling uneasy, and curiosity got the best of me. I left my room and went cautiously to the top of the stairs. It didn't sound like my brother. The banging wasn't his usual frustration. I tried to convince myself it was just one of those spooky moments we all go through late at night. I decided to check out what was happening. As I got closer to the kitchen, the noise got louder, and suddenly, everything went dark. The whole house was pitch black. I started to feel really scared, thinking there might be someone breaking in. In a hurry, I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight to see where I was going. Even with the light, the strange sounds continued, making me more nervous. Slowly, I tiptoed towards the kitchen, my heart beating fast. But when I turned the corner, I saw something totally unexpected. A bunch of raccoons, not burglars, were causing chaos in my kitchen. It was like a really weird scene. Raccoons were all over my kitchen, knocking things down and acting like it was their own play area. I was so surprised. The noise and chaos were because of these little raccoons causing a ruckus. I just stood there, not sure whether to be relieved or just amazed, while the raccoons stared at me like they were up to some mischief. But wait, there's more to the story. While I was trying to make sense of the raccoon invasion, I noticed something strange. The power outage wasn't just a random thing. The raccoons had chewed through the power cables. So now, on top of everything else, these raccoons were on a mission to mess with my electricity. I didn't know whether to laugh or get annoyed. The raccoons didn't mean to, but they ended up causing chaos and turning my home into a dark mess. I called my mom, who was on her way back, and told her about the crazy things the raccoons did. She couldn't believe it either. When my mom, brother, and the police came, we saw raccoons running away from the flashlight. Everyone, even the police, laughed and helped us get the raccoons out. But the house was a mess after that. There was plastic and pieces of the cat flap everywhere. The broom and door handle were broken because of the raccoons. While we were cleaning up, we realized the funny side of the situation. What seemed scary at first turned into a funny story. It made the night memorable, and we can now share and laugh about it for years to come. We fixed the power cables, replaced the cat flap, and made the door handle stronger. The raccoons ended up being the unexpected stars of a memorable night. It shows that sometimes strange things happen in unexpected ways. Life is full of surprises, and we never know what to expect. Since that night, every weird sound in the dark could be another raccoon adventure. A few days before winter break, my girlfriend Jenny and I had to take care of my mom's house and dogs while she went on vacation with her friend. Our job was to make sure everything was okay at home. It seemed easy at first. My mom's house is in a quiet town in upstate North Dakota. Normally, not much happens there, especially during the holiday season. Jenny and I spent our days walking the dogs, watching TV, and playing video games. It was all pretty normal. One night, Jenny and I were busy with our own things. She was using her phone, and I was playing Pokémon Shield on the Switch. As the clock neared midnight, we heard something strange, loud footsteps outside, coming up the porch. It was spooky because it was late, and it seemed like someone with big boots was walking around. My mom's house layout made it even scarier. The couch we were sitting on had windows on both sides, so we could see outside. The front porch, where the footsteps were getting closer, was right behind us. Suddenly, the person reached the window on the left side of the couch and made a deep, angry sound. Jenny and I were really scared for a moment, trying to figure out what was going on. It took us about 5 seconds to calm down. We quickly decided to turn off all the lights and hide in the laundry room, so the stranger wouldn't see us. After a while, I got curious and wondered if it was safe to see if everything was okay. I looked out of the window and saw a big guy walking strangely on the other side of the street, carrying a plastic bag even though all the stores were closed at that late hour. The weird part was, he suddenly started moving really fast across the street towards the parking lot near my house, and then he disappeared. I hurried back to the laundry room and told Jenny what I saw. When we checked the windows again, he was nowhere to be seen. We were arguing about whether to call the police when we heard knocks on the other side of the house. We rushed there and found someone trying to open the door. Luckily, it was locked. My mom's small dog started barking loudly, scaring the person away. Worried, we called my mom for advice. She said not to involve the cops, thinking the person might be drunk and not aware of what they were doing. She told us it wasn't the first time someone confused showed up at our door late at night. Trusting my mom, we decided not to call the police. Days later, we continued taking care of the house, being more careful but hoping for a peaceful stay. However, things didn't turn out that way. One night, Jenny and I were watching a movie at home. Suddenly, we heard a weird creaking noise. The room felt strange, like something was wrong. We looked at each other, both feeling uneasy. Creaking sound kept going, getting louder like someone was moving around the house. I got worried, thinking it might be the same mysterious person from the other night. We turned off the TV and everything got really quiet. The creaking sound continued, and we could also hear faint whispers. We were scared but unsure whether to check what was happening or hide in the laundry room, like before. Feeling brave, we walked quietly towards the noise. It was coming from the hallway to my mom's room. The whispers got louder, and my heart was racing with a mix of fear and curiosity. As we got closer to my mom's room, the door slowly opened, and we saw a dark figure inside. It wasn't the big, tough stranger we saw earlier. Instead, a tired-looking lady with messy hair stood in front of us. She looked more confused than scary. Her eyes seemed unsure, and she held an old picture in her shaky hand. Jenny and I looked at each other, feeling confused about what to do. The lady took a step closer and said in a soft, shaky voice,
"I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I used to live here a long time ago. This used to be my room."
She told us she'd been going through tough times and was wandering around, trying to go back to places from her past. Our mom's house meant a lot to her, and she didn't think anyone would be here. She said sorry for barging in and thanked us for not calling the police. We were scared at first when we heard Linda's story, but then we felt really sorry for her. Linda had a tough life, and she ended up moving around a lot. This made her lose touch with reality, and she found comfort in going back to familiar places. We felt both sorry for Linda and like we needed to help her. So we gave her a warm meal to eat and a place to sleep for the night. While she told us about her tough times, the house that seemed spooky at first became a safe and understanding place. It was surprising because we thought the house was haunted, but it turned out to be a real person going through hard times. Spending time with Linda made us see things differently, and our fear turned into a chance to be kind. In the end, taking care of the house became a story of meeting unexpected people and realizing that sometimes the most surprising stories happen right where we live. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. I'm a 15-year-old guy living in a special place for older people and those with health issues. It's a small village, and you can only live here if you're retired or dealing with health stuff. We each have our own small houses, and mine has a living room, dining room, back porch, kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom, the usual setup. About 2 weeks ago, I was hanging out with some friends from the village during our usual time together. They started talking about strange things happening at night, like knocks on doors and someone messing with doorknobs. One person even said someone tried to open her front door. We thought maybe some kids from another neighborhood were playing pranks. Our village isn't super strict on security since we usually don't have problems. A few days later, I had to go to physical therapy. I think I forgot to lock both my front and back doors, but I wasn't too worried. Our neighborhood is usually safe, even with the pandemic going on. It feels like a big family here, with lots of people walking around and chatting. It's a cozy place. After therapy, I took a long nap. Suddenly, my neighbor Jacob from across the street woke me up. She often helps me with my medical things, like setting up my feeding machine and breathing gear. Jacob and her husband Frank used to be a nurse and a cop, so they really know what they're doing. I've known them since they helped me become Catholic 2 years ago. Jacob was helping me, and she noticed my heater wasn't working. She suggested I stay at her place for the night until it gets fixed in the morning. Even though I was really tired, I felt something was not right about her. But I went along with it. Jacob quickly packed my medical stuff, and we went to her house. When we arrived, Frank set up a bed for me. That's when Jacob told me the truth. She saw someone hiding in my walk-in closet when she was getting my IV bag. She faked the heater problem to keep me safe. I felt uneasy, not knowing if that person had been in my closet while I was away or sneaked in during my nap. The peaceful feeling in the village was gone. Jacob could tell I was really scared, so she gave me a hug and said she and Frank would stay with me all night. Nice, right? But it didn't end there. Later, I woke up to tapping on the window. Guess who? The person from my closet, a guy about 6 feet tall. He said he saw me and was planning to come in. I called for Jacob, and she and Frank rushed in. Frank, a retired cop, is not someone to mess with, even without a gun. He aimed it at the guy and told him to leave. Meanwhile, Jacob helped me up, and we hid in the walk-in closet, super scared. The guy kept banging on the window, so Jacob called the police. Luckily, they patrol our village often. When they came, the window was cracked, but the guy was gone. They asked me for a statement, but Jacob explained that I had trouble breathing, and Frank spoke for me. After that scary night, the village got some people to watch over during the day and night. They're also saving money to put up a gate. A few days later, Frank set up security cameras and alarms in my house and theirs. Now, I always make sure my doors are locked when I leave, take a nap, or go to bed to stay safe. But here's the surprising part. About a week after the scary incident with the banging on the windows, things seemed to calm down. The security guards were doing their job, and the village felt safer. However, one evening while I was watching TV in my living room, I heard a soft scratching noise. At first, I thought it might be my cat, but he was sleeping in the bedroom. I was very curious, so I turned off the TV and listened. The scratching sound kept going, and it was coming from my walk-in closet. Memories of that strange guy hiding in there came back, and I felt very scared. Carefully, I walked up to the closet and slowly opened the door. I was very surprised because no creepy person this time. Instead, I found a little scared kitten in my room. It was making the scratching noise I heard. This cute furball looked at me with big, innocent eyes. Can you believe it? Surprise in my crazy story was this tiny kitten. I gently picked up the kitten and saw a small collar with a tag on its neck. The tag said the kitten's name was Whiskers. It seemed like Whiskers had somehow sneaked into my closet, maybe looking for a safe place or just having an adventure. I was torn between laughing and feeling relieved. The noise that scared me turned out to be a lost kitten. I decided to take Whiskers to Jacob and Frank's house. We all had a good laugh about the unexpected twist in my crazy week. We thought maybe Whiskers belonged to someone in the village and got into my closet during all the chaos. The security guards, Jacob and Frank, helped me look for Whiskers' owner. Whiskers, the cat making noise in my closet, actually belongs to Mrs. Thompson from our village. She was really worried when he sneaked out of her house. When we returned Whiskers to her, she was super happy, and we were relieved the mystery of the scratching noise was solved. After that, our village started being more careful with security. We all had a good laugh about the unexpected twist with the lost kitten. It brought some joy and laughter back after the scary events before. Now, whenever we talk about that week's weird happenings, we can't help but smile and remember Whiskers, the little cat who made our village story more interesting. My name is Alex, a 15-year-old guy, and I want to tell you about this crazy thing that happened in the winter of 2021. I worked really hard to save up money so I could move out of my parents' house. Eventually, I found a cool 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom place about a 20-minute drive from my parents' house. It was awesome. On weekends, I could sleep in and do whatever I wanted without my parents bothering me. It felt like I was living the dream. But then, on February 13, 2021, something really scary happened. It was 11 p.m. and I was in my room watching YouTube videos on my phone. Suddenly, there was a knock on my door. Getting a knock late at night is not cool. I looked out the window and saw a big guy wearing all black. It gave me a creepy feeling. I didn't open the door, but he started trying to break it down like the Hulk or something. Instead of calling for help, I grabbed my gun. A guy broke the glass, unlocked the door, and rushed upstairs to my room. I stared at him and he reached into his pocket. No time to waste. I shot him in the stomach. He screamed, but when the cops arrived, he was gone. They asked questions but couldn't find him. After the scary incident, my landlord made things safer. I got a new door without a big window, alarms, and cameras. He even lowered my rent to keep me as a tenant. The neighborhood is usually nice, so I decided to stay. I still live alone, but now I'm extra careful, especially at night. Every night, I lock my bedroom door, hoping that the scary guy won't come back. And now, here's the unexpected part. A few weeks passed, and everything seemed normal again. I was just relaxing, watching Netflix, and everything was fine. One Saturday evening, I heard a knock on my door. It wasn't a scary, late-night knock, but it was unexpected. I took a peek through the window and there was a girl standing there. I opened the door, being careful but curious. She looked around my age, maybe a bit older, and seemed worried. Her name was Jamie. She told me she used to live in the house before me and had some weird experiences too. It made me wonder what's going on with this place. Jamie spilled the details. Before I moved in, she had a similar thing happen. A mysterious guy, all dressed in black, knocked on her door one night. She didn't open it, but he tried to break in just like what happened to me. It freaked her out, so she called the cops, but the guy vanished before they got there. We were both really surprised. The same strange guy with the same creepy behavior. It got even weirder when Jamie said her incident happened on February 13, but a year before mine. That's a pretty spooky coincidence. So, we decided to play detectives together. Jamie had security footage from her experience, and we compared our stories. The guy looked exactly the same in both incidents, tall, dressed all in black, the whole deal. It seemed like we were dealing with a guy who does creepy stuff more than once. We got really curious and started looking into the history of the house. People used to say it was haunted or cursed, but we couldn't find solid evidence. We even asked the old owners about any spooky stuff, but they didn't spill the beans. However, they did mention some weird things happening, like objects moving on their own and strange noises in the middle of the night. Our detective team looked around the neighborhood for clues. We talked to an old lady, Mrs. Fletcher, who shared something strange. Many years ago, a man lived in the house we were investigating. He got involved in spooky things, like occult rituals. One night, he disappeared, leaving the house empty for a long time. This information was like a light bulb moment for us. We started connecting the dots. It seemed like this guy who was into creepy stuff was haunting the place. The weird history, strange events, and the same person showing up at our door on the same date all added up. It felt like we were stuck in a not-so-great scary movie. Now, here's where things get interesting. With our detective skills, my friend Jamie and I decided to face this ghost from the past. We prepared for it by getting some sage, watching ghost-busting tutorials on YouTube, and waited for February 13 to come around again. That night, we didn't hear any knocks. Instead, the room felt weird, like something was about to happen. We got ready for whatever might come our way. At 11 p.m., something strange occurred. The room became super cold and we heard distant whispers, like a soft chant. It was creepy, but we stayed where we were. Suddenly, the air changed and we saw a figure in the dim light. He was tall, dressed in all black, the same guy as before. But this time, he didn't seem mean. He looked confused and lost, like he was stuck in the past. Jamie and I approached him carefully. We could feel he was sad and frustrated. We didn't talk to him. It didn't seem necessary. Instead, we burned sage, hoping it would help him move on. The room became brighter, and the whispers went away. At midnight, when the clock struck 12, something strange happened in the room. A mysterious figure slowly disappeared, and suddenly the room felt warm and cozy. It was like a heavy feeling lifted away. Jamie and I looked at each other, realizing we had just successfully dealt with a real-life ghost adventure. The next day, things in the house felt different. No more weird sounds or creepy feelings. It was just a regular, not haunted home. Jamie and I became famous in our neighborhood as the brave teens who faced a ghost and won. Everyone in the area was thankful, even Mrs. Fletcher. Life went back to normal for me, living alone. But now people knew me as the guy who confronted the ghost. No more strange knocks or spooky figures in the night. Just me, enjoying Netflix in a ghost-free house. When I was 13, I had a Saturday night all to myself. My parents were away, and my older sister was out with her friends. I could do whatever I wanted at home, like eating on the couch and watching my favorite shows on TV. As I was enjoying some leftover spaghetti and watching YouTube, the doorbell suddenly rang. It was unusual for someone to ring the doorbell, especially at night, so it surprised me. I felt a bit startled but not scared. However, I had no plans of opening the door for anyone while I was home alone. I went quietly to the door to see who it was. I made sure not to make any noise with my footsteps. I looked through the little hole in the door and felt both relieved and confused because there was nobody there and no cars were parked outside. I thought maybe some kids were playing a game of ringing the doorbell and running away. I thought they were probably younger than me. So I went back inside, took my empty spaghetti bowl to the sink, as my mom told me to, and didn't worry too much about it. After going to the bathroom, I sat back on the couch and continued watching my video. Even though I was a little worried, I didn't pay much attention to it. I got comfortable with blankets and got a soda from the fridge. Unfortunately, just a few minutes later, there was another round of knocking at the door. But this time, it wasn't just a ring. It was loud banging, like the police were knocking. I got really scared when the door kept shaking, like someone was trying to break in. The whole room felt like it was shaking too, and my heart was beating super fast. Then, all of a sudden, it stopped. I paused my video, and everything was super quiet. I was really scared, but I stood up and went back to the door. I looked through the little hole again, but there was nobody there. This time, I wasn't as scared, just kind of annoyed. I wanted to go outside and yell at whoever was messing with me, but I knew that wouldn't be smart. So instead, I backed away from the door, got under my blankets on the couch, and waited until I felt safe again. After about 10 minutes, I felt better and started watching my TV show again. I was still feeling nervous. A little later, I heard loud popping sounds in the distance, like fireworks. It startled me so much that I accidentally hurt my toe on the coffee table. I was annoyed and muttered about the people in the neighborhood who were setting off fireworks for no reason, even though the 4th of July had already passed. Even though I was still a bit on edge, I tried to focus on my video. But just a minute or two later, I felt really scared as someone started pounding on my front door again. This time, they were also ringing the doorbell and yelling. It wasn't a quick noise like before. It went on for a while. I didn't really want to check, but my curiosity and frustration made me do it. I approached the door quietly and peeked outside. To my surprise, I saw my next-door neighbor, the wife of the couple who moved in a few months ago. She was yelling and crying outside, really upset and asking for help. I almost opened the door to let her in, but then I noticed something weird when I looked closely. Her face was all messy with blood, like she had been in a car crash. Suddenly, I got this really strong and scared feeling that I've never had before. Even though she clearly needed help, I just couldn't bring myself to open the door for her. I was too scared for myself. She needed help. She had to go to the next house because I wasn't going to take that risk. Even as she kept on screaming, I slowly stepped back and went upstairs to hide in my room. I stayed under my blankets until she finally gave up, and things got quiet again. A little later, I thought those loud sounds were just some people setting off fireworks, but it turned out to be police lights flashing outside my window. I looked out of my window and saw a lot of police around my house and my neighbors' houses. Ambulances were there too, ready to help anyone who might be hurt. Later, I learned that no one was actually injured. The police knocked on my door, and this time I opened it. They asked me a lot of questions, but they didn't tell me much. I only found out the whole story when it was on the news. A dangerous person was going around our neighborhood, ringing doorbells and hiding. The scary part was that he wanted people to open their doors so he could hurt them. When he came to my house, I didn't open the door. So, he went to my neighbor's house. Sadly, they fell for his trick, and he heard something bad happening. He forced the wife to go to the last house he visited and asked them to open the door. I still didn't open the door, but my elderly neighbors did. The person tricked them, and he ended up hurting all of them. None of them survived. I almost became part of the people who died, but I stayed safe by following a simple rule I used to think was obvious. The rule is, don't open the door for anyone, especially when you're alone and it's nighttime. Now, here's the surprising part of the story. A few weeks later, while I was walking home from school, I saw someone I recognized. It was the same lady who had been banging on my door, the wife of my neighbors. I was shocked to see her alive and well. I went up to her and asked what happened. She explained that she faked her own death with the help of the police to catch a dangerous person who was causing trouble in our neighborhood. The whole thing was a plan to trap the bad guy and make sure he got caught. A lady who turned out to be a secret police officer told me that the danger was real and they needed to catch the bad person in the act. She said sorry for tricking me, but thanked me for not opening the door that night. If I had, the whole plan might have failed, and the dangerous person could have escaped. Later, the news said that the police caught the bad person, and the scary situation was over. The neighborhood could finally feel safe again. This unexpected event showed that things aren't always what they seem, and being brave means trusting your instincts, even when things are surprising. I was stuck at home with my broken legs, and my family went to watch a movie without me. I was sitting in the dark, feeling frustrated and helpless. I looked outside into the backyard, and something strange happened. In the faint moonlight, I saw two figures coming from the old barn. They were walking towards my house, holding hands. At first, I thought they were just some kids playing around. But as they got closer, I realized they were teenagers wearing strange white masks with creepy smiles. I got scared and quickly closed the window, going back inside the house to stay safe. I rolled my wheelchair from the living room to the den. I turned off all the lights and left my wheelchair behind. Then, I went to the window to check if those people with masks were still outside. Surprisingly, they were there, holding hands and looking at my house. It scared me a lot. One of them even waved at me. I got really scared. I wondered how they knew I was here when I hadn't turned on any lights. I didn't know what to do. I thought about calling my parents or the police, but their phones were off. I didn't know how to explain everything without sounding crazy. Feeling trapped, I went back to the hallway between the living room and the kitchen. Someone knocked on the front door. A muffled voice asked if they could come in. My heart raced. I turned away and went towards the stairs. My only plan was to reach my room, lock the door, and try to stay safe. I crawled up the stairs using my hands and knees. When I got to a certain point, I saw a person wearing a mask looking through a window on the front door. They giggled, and it scared me so much that I couldn't move. They knew I was there, and I suddenly realized the front door was unlocked, which meant they could easily come in. Then, I heard a knock on the back door, and another person was talking quietly. It made me even more scared. I closed my eyes and covered my face with my shaky hands. The back door made weird sounds, like someone was trying to open it. Feeling really desperate, I prayed, even though I wasn't usually a religious person. Time felt like it was dragging on forever as I hid, waiting for something to happen. When I finally got brave enough to look up, nobody was peeking through the window anymore. I moved carefully, crawled slowly to the stairs, and went back to my room, locking the door behind me. That night felt like the longest and scariest experience ever. Just when I thought it was all over, something unexpected happened. In the dark of my room, I heard a soft whisper, almost drowned out by the pounding of my heart.
Hey, it's us. Don't be scared.
I couldn't move, trying to understand what I just heard. Was I imagining things? The whisper came again, this time sounding a bit familiar.
We're not here to hurt you. Please open the door.
I heard a voice that seemed like one of my friends, but they were wearing masks, and I couldn't be sure. I felt scared because I didn't know what was going on, but also curious if it was someone I knew. Finally, I got brave and quietly asked, "Who are you? Why are you wearing those masks?" They explained in hushed tones that they were friends playing a prank, and they didn't mean to scare me. They apologized a lot. While they talked, I tried to recognize their voices, and it started to make sense that they might be my friends. Still not completely sure. I asked them to prove it. I told them to slide a note under the door with something only we would know. I heard the sound of paper moving, and a folded note appeared. I picked it up carefully, unfolded it, and saw my friend's handwriting with an inside joke. Only we would understand. I felt really happy when I opened the door. My friends were wearing masks, but when they took them off, they were just my buddies trying to surprise me after the movie. We all laughed and shared stories, even though I was still a bit scared from what happened earlier. My family came home and were surprised to see us all having a good time. It took some time to explain that it was just a prank and everything was okay. At first, the scary night turned into a funny one, and we learned to appreciate life's surprises. Even though we still remembered the scary masks and the fear they caused, the surprising twist in the story changed a night that felt like a bad dream into something we would giggle about for a long time. A few years ago, when I was 15, my family and I moved to a new place. We got a new apartment and decided to get a puppy. We took the puppy for walks 4 or 5 times a day. But when we left him alone at home, he would get upset. Not just us, but even our neighbors noticed. In the beginning, our dog would bark and cry when we weren't home. We were concerned about our neighbors, so we asked them if it bothered them. Most of them were fine with it, except for a person named Steve. One Saturday, I was home alone when Steve knocked on our door. When I opened it, he looked surprised at first, but then smiled politely. He said,
"Hey, can you tell your parents to come see me when they get home, please?"
I said okay, and he left. When my parents came back, I told them what happened. Dad thought it was because our dog was too noisy. He went to Steve's place, and Steve explained that he worked at night and needed to sleep during the day. Our dog's barking was bothering him. Steve said, "It's not easy to control a dog's barking," and apologized for coming to our door. Not knowing I was alone, Dad had a nice talk with him and apologized for the trouble. We worked hard to help our puppy with anxiety, and it worked. Though he still barked, he wasn't as upset. Now, a few weeks later, every time our dog saw Steve, he got really happy. But strangely, even though our dog usually liked people, he didn't like Steve. Steve stopped talking to us and mostly ignored us. Sometimes he just stared at us. One day, my mom and I saw 6 holes on our apartment door, like someone had hit it with a key or something sharp. Mom thought we might have accidentally done it, but our neighbor Martha called Mom, worried about me. She asked if I was home alone that afternoon. Mom said no. Martha then told a scary story about someone banging on our door, shouting mean things. Martha's son hid under his bed, thinking someone was trying to break in. A few weeks later, we went out with Martha's family during a nighttime city fair. When we got back around 11 p.m., someone rang our doorbell. Dad checked, but nobody said anything. Since it was midnight, Dad found it strange and didn't go downstairs. We went to bed, ignoring it. The next morning, Mom talked to Martha, who said when they came back from the fair, they found Steve hiding under the stairs with a baseball bat. He was nervous, saying someone had rung the doorbell late at night. Mom figured out the situation. Steve came to our house, expecting Dad to come down. Dad, worried about our safety, went upstairs looking angry. When Steve saw Dad, he looked like he might faint. Dad talked to him, and Steve started crying. He confessed to using drugs and not knowing what he was doing. He said sorry for damaging our door with a pocket knife and for the incident the night before. It turns out, our dog got upset whenever he sent Steve because Steve would wait for everyone to leave, then come and kick our door. This made our dog angrier each time, and it wasn't just because of his anxiety. Dad spoke calmly, saying it was the last time he'd talk to Steve. If he came near us again, there would be consequences. We reported everything to the police, but after that, we never saw Steve again. His wife had kicked him out and got a restraining order for her and their daughter. One morning, she found him staring at them while they slept, and the whole house smelled like gas because he left the stove on. Not long after we moved to a new place that seemed calm, and our lives went back to normal, something unexpected happened. A few months later, I saw Steve, someone I knew, at a nearby grocery store. He looked different, all cleaned up and put together. It was surprising. I was very curious, and I cautiously went up to him. "Hey, Steve," I said unsurely. He turned, looking a bit surprised at first, but then he genuinely smiled.
Hey, kid. It's been a while. How have you been?
I was surprised by his friendly tone. "Ah, good. We moved to a new place, and things are better now." After a moment of hesitation, I couldn't resist asking, "What about you?" Steve sighed, and I could see regret and remorse in his eyes. He said,
I messed up big time, but I've been getting help, trying to turn my life around. I owe your family an apology, especially your dad.
Steve changed a lot, and it surprised me. He seemed honest and not troubled like before. I asked him, "Why did you do those things in the past?" Because I really wanted to know. Steve looked down like he was struggling with his past mistakes. He said,
I was in a bad place, making bad choices. I couldn't handle my problems, and I treated others badly. I'm really sorry for what I put your family through.
As we talked, Steve told me about his journey to get better. After we moved, he hit rock bottom, but our family's incident made him realize he needed to change. He got help, went to therapy, and fixed his relationships. He even reconnected with his wife and daughter, who helped him a lot in becoming a better person. Steve's story was unbelievable. He used to be a difficult neighbor, and we were scared of him. But when he shared his story of change, it felt like a dream. As he walked out of the store, I felt surprised, understanding, and a bit hopeful that people can improve. After that, we met Steve sometimes, and each time he seemed calmer and happier. He kept his promise and never bothered our family again. It was an amazing change that nobody expected. Life is like a roller coaster with surprises. Steve's story showed me that everyone can make mistakes, but some deserve another shot. I learned forgiveness and how people can change for the better. Over time, I wondered about Steve and hoped he stayed on a good path with his family. Meeting Steve unexpectedly reminded us that tough times can lead to redemption and positive changes. Our journey with Steve began with fear, but ended with understanding and compassion.